I kind of wanted to also just turn it to Andrea, who is here with us, thinking a little bit about these issues around space and the politics around that, even the ways in which it allows for certain different kinds of expressions of self-empowerment to take place. I wanted to invite Andrea just to introduce us to his work and his project, which he also documents here in the paper, which I think can contribute to this conversation. Andrea, thank you.
Thank you. My opinion is this project comes out of a place of necessity. Most of the people speaking about power, capacity of create a change, and always be connected to politics and economy. My pavilion is reclaiming this word in the hands of artists, which are not only interested in self-promotion, but interested in engaging with the social problem. We started to collaborate with other venues, and I found in collaboration and the power of not having a space, but at the same time start, waving this network. The last event was a symposium, and I know how hard it is for the people to interact. In the other side, there's so many people speaking about this problem, but there is no actual action. And so I wanted to bring to this symposium a practical action, basic structure for cooperation. And so I invited those project spaces. After this symposium, we opened an Excel list. In each project spaces could just write its name, what is the needs, and what they can share. How no-profit project spaces are impacted by the rent increase and by the privatization and commodification of life. I mean, it's a zero budget database, but it helps us for the next step, building a community which is meaningful in a sense of engage with the problem that are here. My goal, connecting artists to activists, I have appetite for this kind of art, and art that can be applied in the social context. I don't have a solution. It's a very complex topic, but my experience, I know that just bring people together and crash different fields in the same space and start a really productive discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate your story and everything you're doing with Maya Pavilion. It makes me very much think a little bit about the sort of network or the sort of culture of project space, kind of culture in the city here in Berlin, and the ways in which, that sort of network or that sort of culture of project space making. I think for me it's quite like having lived in other European cities, other American cities. It is quite a unique expression, a unique quality within Berlin. It also makes me think sometimes about the ways in which we not only sort of recognize that, but also memorialize that. I mean, I think there is constantly these things that are opening and closing, and there's a kind of constant cultural dynamic there that I find, that everybody is sort of really building community in such a dynamic way. And I think your recent symposium kind of points at that, the ways in which all these different little micro communities and micro spaces can sort of link up and sort of recognize each other as really contributing and participating in another sort of way in which the city gets defined, of course culturally, but in other ways. And this made me think very much about something that the wonderful author Dimitris Papadopoulos talks about in his book called Experimental Practice, where he talks about what he calls generous infrastructures. Generous infrastructures, which I guess kind of speaks towards the idea of commoning, the sort of common ethics of commoning, the sort of politics of commoning. And he sort of describes generous infrastructures as not only about space and about materials or resources, but about social relations. So infrastructure is not only a sort of material, architectural, urban structure, but it's also, of course, very much about people. So people as infrastructure is something he talks about. And this made me think very much about the way that you are also understanding Meyer Pavilion as a community building project. It's very much about the people who come.